What is your number one piece of advice for an app marketer who is struggling to scale in today's market?
Just one.
Welcome to Behind the Apps Mobile Marketing Talks, a video interview series brought to you by AVOW, where we go behind the scenes of mobile marketing with some of the smartest minds in the industry. I'm Cindy Oran, a seasoned product marketer across tech, fintech, growth teams, and today's conversation feels especially fitting. I'm joined by Alex Brumbauer, Head of Performance Marketing at Veda.com. I'm actually very excited for this one because weather apps are checked multiple times a day, powered by real-time data, and it's deeply embedded in daily habits, I know for myself, where essentially the user behavior can change with like every forecast. So that makes performance marketing a completely different climate. So before I overdo the weather puns, let's dive in. Today we're going to go behind the apps with the performance lead of one of Europe's most essential digital brands, a true household name in Germany that scaled across 15 markets. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for the great introduction and thanks for having me. Yes, Cindy already mentioned I'm Alex. I've been with Weather.com for 7 years now. I started my career as a senior performance marketing manager, and today I lead the performance marketing team as team lead, overseeing the whole international markets. In the role, I'm responsible for strategic development and execute of performance marketing activities across all countries in which Weather.com is operating. Weather.com is one of Europe's leading digital weather platforms, reaching millions of users every day across apps and some TV. We have a strong presence in multilingual European markets. We provide reliable weather forecasts, data-driven insights, and premium weather content for both consumers and business partners. I'm very much looking forward to the interview and the exchange today.
Brilliant. It's super great to have you. Thank you again also for that intro. Now, before we get into channels, data, and performance, I always like to zoom out for a second and start on a more human note. So what is one app or digital service unrelated to work that you use every single day? So this can be a fitness tracker, a language app, smart home tool, any of that.
It will sound boring and maybe bland, but since I'm working for a weather app, obviously I'm really using it's one of the first apps during winter at least. The reason why is so during winter, it's the first is maybe weather. During summer, it's just my smart home because I need to open the roof shutters and therefore depends during winter. If it's icy, then I cannot do that. So therefore, weather is always relevant for me as well. And yeah, so it's either weather or it's my smart home app where I can actually open everything here or turn on the heating. So it's nothing special. It's weather.com.
But that's the truth. That's the honesty that we want. So I love that, and it actually ties in nicely to weather.com. And you know how most phones always come with a weather app pre-installed, right? So it's often right there on the home screen. From your perspective, what's the key value proposition that convinces a user to go to the App Store and download Veda.com instead of just sticking with the default? Because I myself, when I got my Google Pixel, I also was like, oh, there's also the weather app already there. And what makes someone else to go and download a different one?
It's a good one, and I would also say it's the most accurate you can get. That's what we do for all the countries, so that's one thing here. Then it's also how we do it is there are different models out there how you can do weather forecasts. We're using different ones. We have a real radar, so some of others are having like pictures there or using something else. So we are really calculating their radar and show you where the clouds are, where the rain is, and what you can expect for the next 5-10 minutes up to 1.5 hours. We're producing real content in-house. We're doing weather forecasts, for example, today, tomorrow, next 3 days, 7 days. This is something we're doing every day. So also over the weekends, you get informed from our colleagues from the editorial department about everything, what's happening out there. In special cases, you get even more videos on that. And yeah, so as I already mentioned, we are having really humans. So you can really see them also on TV, in our apps, and on different other platforms on TV as well. Also on radio, actually.
Ah. And just out of curiosity, so does that mean are you the friend that everyone messages that says, should I be bringing an umbrella, given the accuracy of the data that you have?
Of course, that's what we do, especially with our rain radar. Yeah, sometimes it's not that easy to predict everything per minute, but I would say it's one of the most reliable weather apps out there. And if you check that, of course, we have a forecast for the next hours and everything. But if you're really using the rain radar, it's in the app integrated. If you click on that, you see a radar when the rain is coming, when it's over, how heavy it will be. Or right now, you would also see if it's not rain, if it's snow. And therefore, we will tell you when and how to use the umbrella.
And so now let's zoom out and talk growth. So, because I think this is where a lot of performance marketers listening will really relate. So, weather is always relevant, but demand isn't always predictable. So, at what point did you realize that relying strictly on the big two, so Google and Meta, was a risk to your growth? And how did you start looking for a third pillar?
I mean, relying just on two, I would never recommend to someone. I think it's never good because then you have to take what you get, and therefore, especially in our case, OEMs and pre-installs, how we call it internally, is already a huge part and a real pillar for us, and which we would like to grow there. So, would also say it's more or less equal to some other like Google or Meta in this case. So it has always be strong. It's always the performance is strong. So this is the part where we would like to grow and which we see real potential in it, especially with some new OEMs coming up and with the existing ones. Yeah, that was always the aim for weather.com to also grow in OEMs.
Nice. And then layered on top of that, so weather demand is volatile by nature. And so how do you build a stable growth engine where when your daily KPIs essentially are influenced by something that is as predictable and uncontrollable as the outdoor forecasts?
So of course we, as a weather app, we also rely on the weather. But the good thing is, yeah, it's funny, but going crazy, then also numbers are going crazy and users are going crazy. But the good thing is with weather is always relevant. It's of course there are effects or seasons where it's not that relevant, but that can also change immediately. So it's most likely not like we're having a long time where it's no season for us. And also during the season, I call it, which is not our season, but also during that time, weather is still relevant. The only thing here is user not checking the weather maybe 10 times a day. They more check it once or twice a day. There is no real target group for weather. It's, I don't know, it's everyone. Having kids, of course, then weather is more relevant. Having a dog, it's also super relevant. Working outside, it's super relevant. That's a good thing with weather. It's relevant for everyone. And in some cases, if you say, I don't care about the weather, someone else is caring about it. Because they need to know, will it rain or not? Do I need to plant my plants or water my plants or something else? So there's always a reason for weather.
It's so true. I guess now
And
that
this,
I think of it, you're just it's relevant for everyone. There's no specific target group. The only time I've ever heard someone that says I don't really care about the weather is when they're purely in the sunshine all day, every day.
I would say it's sunshine, but it's also during winter. As long as you can predict it or predict the weather on your own, then it's a bit less relevant. But
Yeah.
also during heat, it depends how warm is it. Are we talking about 28 degrees or is it 38? If it's turning to 38, then it's more relevant again. And
True.
same during winter. is it 5 degrees plus or 5 minus, then it's, as I said, it's can change immediately here. So therefore it's always something, and as I said before, if it's relevant for you as a user, it's also relevant for us. So you also see them peaks in sessions, peaks in installs, and yeah, that's also what we need to push further during that. So it's a quite dynamic environment. If there is a storm out there, then we also have a storm internally. Need to push on that specific day and do everything to get the most out of it.
Amazing. Perfect metaphor. And so that's a perfect segue maybe into the how. So one thing I find interesting about the setup is how you've approached diversification beyond the usual suspects. Why should performance marketers treat manufacturers, Samsung, Xiaomi, as a primary channel on par with Google and Meta?
I think I mentioned it before, so I do not really see a huge difference in performance. So that's one of the most important parts. Overall, it's really good for us. So in our case, there is nothing else. Maybe it's also related to the topic, weather, but overall worked for me quite well, working with OEMs also in the past. Then it's close to the user. I mean, there's also a bit less competition, if I'm honest. I mean, you're already going through an onboarding session. Once you have a new phone, you're there. It's not like making display campaigns or video campaigns. So it's already on there. And I don't know, in our case, it's also quite obvious what it is about. And most likely they already know us. So it's maybe also a good fit for us. And yeah, and it's a good fit for us, it's a good fit for the user, and this is one of the biggest things we will also push in the future. Yeah, and it's one of the most important pillars for us. So we are using it as a performance channel, but on top, I would say it's also branding for us. I mean, the app is on that. We see the download happened. Maybe the first open takes a bit longer for some. But yeah, it's both together in one.
So now I guess we'll shift gears. So we'll finish it with a quick rapid fire round. So no overthinking. You just first instinct, whatever you have in mind for these 5 questions. Are you ready, Alex?
I'm ready.
Question 1. What is the very first app you check when you wake up, and the last one you check before you go to sleep?
As I said, the first is maybe, most likely, weather.com. The last can be Instagram.
I think I'm actually the exact same as you too. Second question, do you check the weather app as a user or a marketer?
More as a user, so it's a difficult one because let's say my whole day is related to weather, so therefore I'm maybe not a heavy user. Because somehow I see a video, somehow I hear something about weather the whole day. So maybe I'm not checking it as often as expected for me, but yeah. So I'm maybe more a user.
Good. Third question. One thing that used to work in app growth that no longer does.
Yeah. I think it's also closing the cycle here. What I mentioned before is not focusing just on 1 or 2 channels. Like you mentioned before, like Google or Meta. I think you need many more of them. You need to think about the whole funnel, having some display campaigns, video campaigns, also out of using different social media channels. And yeah, and of course OEMs, I think that's what we do at least. So focusing on more and not just on less, because then you also rely just what they do and how it works for them. If that's going more expensive, then it's your fault. So therefore, more is better.
More is better. Brilliant. What's one metric you trust the most and one you're most skeptical of?
So in our case, is the most important thing is sessions, of course, because we are 100% publisher, and publisher we rely on sessions because sessions is money for us, that therefore it's a sessions per user. So if you have more sessions, then of course the LTV is also growing on that side. And yeah, I'm The most skeptical one is for me retention rate. I know it's a good one, it's a really interesting one, but it's also a really difficult one in some cases. First, which time frame you're checking, and like in our case, or if I don't know, let's say you have a good retention rate, but the baskets are quite low. What is then the most important here? Or you're having a good bunch of users with a high amount of sessions, but the retention rate is low. So therefore, it can be a bit skeptical.
Got it. And the final question is, what is your number one piece of advice for an app marketer who is struggling to scale in today's market?
Just one.
Yes, or you can do top three.
Um, so what we learned in the past, which is always ongoing, is really focus on your visuals, focus on the testing. So testing visuals is really, really important. In some cases, if you struggle to do something, maybe restart the whole campaign. Don't try to optimize and optimize. Maybe at some point it's really a good thing to just say, let's stop it and restart again.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's it actually.
Brilliant. Actually, it's so very true. In terms of visual testing, whenever for me, that's such a big one when I use an app. From the visuals, the UX, and so on, can make such a difference of how much you spend.
Can be everything, yeah. It can be really simple, it can be really difficult. It also, if you talk about videos, is it a short one or a long one? I think, or also on Google, we have 6 different lengths there. It's a huge thing, but yeah, think about what the user would like and what kind of story you would tell with the banners or videos.
Yeah. Well, that was it. The 5 questions. You did very well, Alex. Thank you so much for coming behind the apps. It's been great to see you, meet you, and have you on the show. And it's been really cool to see how you've managed to turn a utility app like the weather app into such a sophisticated growth engine. I really appreciate you sharing these insights with us. Before we wrap up, actually, where is the best place for our listeners to follow your work or keep up with what you're doing in the team at weather.com? Is there anything? This is your chance to plug it in.
Well, do so, and it's also an easy one. You can follow us with all the latest information. Is really go on LinkedIn and follow weather.com. And if you're interested in sharing something with me, then it's just also me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you.
For more insights and expertise on mobile user acquisition and app growth, visit AVOW.tech, the mobile OEM advertising specialist. I'm Cindy Oran, and until next time, keep on exploring what lies behind the apps.